Now or never. Now or never. Now or never. After a week's break, we are back with the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. It's season 11 of the series and it's round number 7 of the championship, and we're here from the wonderful Sebring in Florida. My name is Paul Smith, alongside me is Peter Mackay. And Peter, where better to have one of our endurance rounds at one of the most historic endurance tracks in the world at Sebring International Raceway.
Yeah, since 1952, the iconic 12 Hours of Sebring has been one of the key blue-ribboned events in the world of endurance racing, and it was Alec Ullman and Briggs Cunningham who brought the sport to the United States, and it's been with us ever since. This is hallowed ground for endurance racing fans.
Certainly is, and it's a round of the championship that I look forward to since they announced the calendar at the start of the season. Speaking of the calendar, here we are then. It is round number 7, as I say, an endurance race. 1 hour and 45 minutes of action around Sebring. Next week we head to Circuit de la Sarthe for 2 40-minute races, and then Mosport for 3 sprint races, and then the final stretch, it's Watkins Glen, Hockenheim and the Red Bull Ring to finish us off in the season. Speaking of this season, let's have a look at our championship standings, and Luke McEwen has got a sensational lead over Ross McFarlane at the top of your pro standings. Josh Thompson in 3rd place, who says he's out of the championship fight. I mean, he is a number of points back, but he is still 3rd place in the championship with Jack Sedgwick, his teammate, in 4th place. Michael Ivdoka, Mike Horder, Adam Volkovich, Adam Watson, even Pete Harrod and Ashley Finch round out your top 10. In Pro-Am, it's Paul Webster who had the best point scoring of anyone last time out at the Hungaroring. He is at the top of the Pro-Am standings ahead of Christian Rose. Tim Perry in 3rd place ahead of Mark Hutchinson, then Andy Archer and James Crouch, Chris van der Ness, Matt Woodhouse, Jeroen Kaiser and Lee Berridge rounding out that championship. In the AM standings, it is James Whitehouse who leads that one. A little bit of a comfortable margin over Lars Van Rijn. Jack Osborne is in 3rd place ahead of Martin de Jong. Then it's Jones, Hedgecock, Belton, Blake, Ward and Kittleman. We, of course, are an endurance round, so that means that we are going to be scoring points for the Enduro Cup here in the World GT Championship. It's Luke McEwen who currently leads that one. But you look at that, 2nd place is an AM, James Whitehouse, and then Mark Hutchinson, 3rd place. Your team's championship, it is Pure Sims Esports that lead that one quite comfortably over German simracing.de by ACV. There was Cooking by 3M team, not that far behind, just 6 points behind in 3rd place with Pure Sim SimLab, Boosted Virage, Evo SR and Team Mad. And then the top 3 Pro-Ams, it's Century Sim Racing who lead that one by over 100 points over Simortal. Boosted SimSport are in 3rd place in Pro-Am. So qualifying is going to be wrapping up very shortly indeed. And Peter, it's quite warm out there is the temperature. The track temperature is just about 49 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy skies. An hour and 45 minutes. We've had changes to the balance and performance and the aerodynamics and also the tyres as well on these GT3 cars. So drivers, we might not be seeing the same cars at the front compared to before the week off.
49 degrees Celsius track temperature is going to be a real big factor for this race. That excessively high track temperature is going to make this already quite low grip surface very greasy and slippy indeed. It's going to wear the tyre more. It's going to put the tyre through more stress as well. The driver's going to have to be super careful of that as well, because if you just hit a bump here at Sebring and you're on an already greasy track anyway, you better be ahead of the car, otherwise you're a one-way ticket to the wall. getting the tyre to last an hour and 45 minutes, is that possible at all? Well, we'll find out as we get into the race, but this excessively high track temperature is going to be a big talking point.
Yeah, you look at the lap time as well, minute 57 for your top pros here, around here. It's quite a long lap is this one. Although saying that, I'm going to get this fact out now whilst I can. The length of this track, and I've said this previously, Peter, the length of this track is the same length as the Mulsanne Straight, where we're going in a week's time.
That's a fantastic factoid, Paul. I'm very impressed. I'm going to write that on my cheat sheet in front of me for future use. I'm going to completely plagiarise that.
Absolutely. But you know, you consider this quite a long track, don't we? I mean, you compare that to where we're going next week and it's nothing, but certainly these drivers, they've got a tremendous challenge in front of them here to be able to get through the hour and 45 minutes here. But the drivers will be getting ready for a full pace lap here, so we will be able to run you through your starting grid here in this endurance race. And it is Luke McEwen, who's done so well in these endurance races this season, sharing the front row of the grid with Ross McFarlane, who prior to the season was known as the king of endurance races here in the World GT Championship. Josh Thompson and Jack Sedgwick, they're both sharing row number 2, the two teammates, with Adam Volkovich and Michael Avdoka, row number 3. Row number 4, newcomer to the championship, Selim Sentek from year 1. He is your top Pro-Am in 7th place, sharing row number 4 with Marvin Lesmorman. Chris Van Der Ness and Jonathan Walker on row number 5, and then Tim Perry and Mark Hutchinson on row number 6. James Crouch, Mark's Evo SR teammate, then sharing row number 7 alongside him is David Baker. Adam Watson, row number 8 with Alex Nella, with Reece Saunders and Tom Brown, sharing row number 9. Row 10 is your top Am on this track. In fact, he should be a Pro-Am, looking at my timing screen. But Chris Maltrek is in 19th. Alongside him is Lockie Brown, with Christian Rose and Mike Horder on the 11th row of the grid, and Paul Webster and Simon Nella, good qualifying for him, in 24th. 25th for Martin de Jong, with Adam Hedgecock alongside him. Pete Harrod and Adam State then sharing the next row of the grid, with the 15th row of the grid shared by Andy Archer and Ben Gregory. Jensen, this is going to be such a... Adrian Essens is in 31st with Ashley Finch in 32nd. I will get that right by the end of this season, trust me. Jesse Payne Wilkins then 33rd alongside Matt Woodhouse, with James Whitehouse and Simon Field the next row of the grid. Kevin Kittleman and Lars Van Rijn on row number 19, with Eric Haag and Lee Berridge row number 20. Jack Osborne and Jack Belton row number 21. Brendan Stacey and John Roberts row 22, with Craig Jones and Andy Gilmore. Michael Blake and Jeroen Kaiser sharing that row of the grid. We're nearly done there. David Nichols and Brian Crone on the next row of the grid, row number 25, with Nick Salapoutis and Toby Ward. And I can tell you that Philip Koenig and Nathan Healy are starting at the back of the grid, 53rd and 54th. There you see some of our drivers giving us a bit of an insight, a bit of a look behind the scenes. There you've got Nick Salapoutis up there, you've got James Whitehouse at Century Sim Racing, Josh Thompson, Alex Nella, Adam Watson. They're all there, and Adam Hedgecock as well, and I believe that's actually Marvin Lesmorman, if I'm not mistaken, in the top right hand corner. I'm waiting for my producer to confirm that to me, but there we go, just a few of our drivers, 8 drivers there on your screen, so great to have them giving us an insight into their driving here today. Well, Peter, it's a full pace lap. I don't suppose that the drivers will be wanting to heat up their tyres too much on this lap, because it's warm conditions here. We've already seen that with the conditions that you saw on screen. They'll be wanting to try and make these tyres last as long as possible, if not the whole race.
Yeah, and then they'll just want to just gently build the temperature and pressure up over the course of this quite long pace lap. I mean, like I say, at full speed, the race lap is about 1 minute 58, 1 minute 59, something like that, depending where you are in the field. So at pace lap speed, it is a good few minutes. The only one thing you might see the drivers doing is kind of just flipping the brake pedal, just trying to generate a bit of temperature in the brakes. But again, you've got to be careful there, not generate too much tyre temperature that way as well. These GT3 spec machines do have anti-lock braking systems, so the lack of brake temperature is not so much of a problem compared to, say, a GTE car. But as we know, that you know, the run through to turn 1 here at Sebring, it's very, very fast, it's blind, and then you're into a heavy braking zone into turn 3, Christensen corner, and a very, very narrow kind of left-right flick, and that's where we could see a little bit of argy-bargy. But since what was a chaotic meeting at the Hungaroring 2 weeks ago, drivers had a bit of a talking to, Paul. Did we say that?
Yes, I think it is very, very fair to say that. That's for sure, because even us in the commentary box, we were struggling to find any positives out of that last round at the Hungaroring. So yeah, the admins have had their say. Like I said last time out, it was almost like the British touring cars when the clerk of the course sat them out in front of the whole grandstand and gave them a right telling to. But forget about that. That was 2 weeks ago. This is right now. This is the World GT Championship, sponsored by Coach Dave Academy and 3M. We're here on RaceSpotTV for round number 7 of the championship. An endurance race around Sebring. An hour and 45's action is going to be underway in just a few seconds' time. Luke McEwen setting the pace at the front of the field, the green flag in the air, and we are underway for action here, down towards turn number 1. Will they all be able to get through here? They're fanning out 3-4 wide further down your order. As we go through turn number 1 then, this is usually one of the key points, and the track narrows down into turn number 3 here. Drivers working their way through. Got to be careful here on the opening lap. Don't get involved in a mistake or an issue. Don't get yourself damaged either, because you're going to have to carry that until your first pit stop. Everybody seems to be safely through, down through towards the hairpin for the first time. This is going to be one of your key overtaking opportunities. You can see 2-3 wide further down in your field here into the hairpin. Everybody trying to sort themselves out here. And it all checks up. You've got to be careful towards the rear of your field, and one of the boosted cars is around, and that's collected I think that was Philip Koenig that it collected there. And away we go. Still green flag action though, Peter, which is good to see.
Yeah, the strange one there from Toby Ward, just losing the rear under brakes. Maybe just clicked down a gear a little bit too early there, but good start from Josh Thompson, now up to second place from third on the grid in the black and blue BMW there, the number 49 car. So Ross McFarlane drops back from second position into third, but Luke McEwen, a perfect start away from pole position. He put that pole position lap in very, very late in the session. Looked like Ross McFarlane was going to edge it, but McEwen just broke his heart right at the last moment.
The drivers come down the Ullman Straight for the first time at speed. It is Luke McEwen at the head of your field then, with Josh Thompson right behind. Ross McFarlane under pressure from Jack Sedgwick, as the rest of your field's thundering through Sunset Bend. It's a corner which has got about 1,000 different lines through there. And again, another favourite overtaking opportunity down there. Look all the way through the field, and look at that, McFarlane just having to protect his inside line a little bit across the start and finish line for the start of lap number 2. But this is good going. This is good early going here. We've got plenty of action all the way through the field. Drivers needing to settle themselves down. But at the front, McEwen and Thompson, they're trying a little bit of a breakaway here, Peter, it seems, over Ross McFarlane.
Yeah, they are. Josh Thompson really does look up for this one tonight, doesn't he? He's right on the tail of Luke McEwen. It's Ross McFarlane just bedding himself into it, but make no mistake, the Scotsman will be there at the end of the race. He doesn't have the number 1 on the door as the defending champion for nothing. He's such a clever operator, and he won't be panicking too much at this stage. The only thing that might concern him, though, is a very committed and very motivated Jack Sedgwick there in the number 10 Ferrari. Of course, the Ferrari winning in the GTD category in the 12 Hours of Sebring last weekend. Who will win the virtual version this weekend? We shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring this Saturday. Make sure you join us on RaceSpotTV for that, presented by VCO. You won't want to miss that. Of course, Will Vincent doing all 12 hours of commentary on that one. Rather him than me, if you ask me. Further down your order then, we've got battling further back Matt Woodhouse. 33rd place, he's got Kevin Kittleman and Ashley Finch in front of him. James Whitehouse, who we saw on the driver board, right behind him as well. Racing from the Century Sim Racing facility in Warrington. If you're in the area, do get yourselves down there. Say hello to James. They'll try out their simulators down there. But down towards Sunset Bend once again. The leaders are already across the line. This is telling you now that the field is just starting to spread out that little bit. And I think drivers, now that we've had those first couple of laps under the belt, they're looking for opportunities, but they're thinking, right, let's get into a bit of a rhythm here, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's 53 cars on the grid across 3 classes, so yeah, you've got to play it smart in this early stage at any race, really, at Sebring, but particularly when the track temperature is as high as it is, which is really going to make the grip very, very low. So the drivers are going to have to be really on it and have a car that's nice and stable and friendly, because there will be the odd moments here and there that the drivers will have to react to, especially as the tyre wears as well. But Luke McEwen straight on the pace at 158.6 last time by, 0.4 of a second quicker than Thompson and McFarlane on 59 zeros.
Yeah, certainly McEwen in previous endurance races has had people dragging along with him, and I think he's just trying to get out on his own and forge his own path. It's certainly working so far for him, nearly a second ahead of Josh Thompson there. Biggest mover in the field so far is your own Kaiser, up 10 places. Tom Brown down 33 places, had an incident in lap number 1, but here's your own Kaiser then. As I say, up 10 places, up to 38th. I mean, you think normally for a normal race, 38th would be right at the back of the grid, but already your own's made 10 places up to get to 38th.
Yeah, and still got plenty more work to do as well. You feel that the driver of the number 76 Team Mad Porsche has got, he will not want to finish 38th, that is for certain. Oh, we've got a spinner. It's one of the boosted cars. John Roberts, number 86, off at the Le Mans.
That's Le Mans, yeah.
Yeah, between Gendebien and Le Mans Curve, yeah.
I'm glad that you pronounced that then, because I've been sat here thinking, is it Gendebien or Gendebien?
Yeah, it depends which part of Belgium you want to talk about, because if it's Gendebien would be more the kind of Flemish style, but Gendebien would be more the kind of French side. But I'm definitely not getting into that argument. Either or, take your pick.
Frank Chrome is on pit road, so obviously damage inflicted on his car in the early going, and he is on pit road. We've got a yellow flag out there, and I believe it's Mark Woodhouse who's dropping down my timing screen here significantly. Here's what happened to John Roberts though. Don't say that's your teammate, John. It is. There'll be a few words said there in the boosted facility, won't there? Here's what happened to Matt Woodhouse. Oh, and that's heavy damage to the front of the car there. And that's what can happen through turn number 1, isn't it? You carry a little bit too much speed or catch a bumper on, and that's it, around it goes.
Yeah, turn 1 is real big commitment. In a GT3 car, you're kind of going from 6th gear, clip it back down to 5th. And hang on for dear life. You really are relying on every last bit of aerodynamic performance, but then there is some huge bumps. I mean, you speak to Alan McNish, who's won this race before many times, and he's won it 4 times, but when he won this in 2009 in what was called the Ugly Duckling, the Audi R15, but he says he still remembers the bump on the exit of turn 1. It would shock you, shake your dreams. It's that violent.
Shake your dreams and knock your fillings out as well. Paul Webster chasing down our leading AM driver, Simon Neller. It's not often that we actually get to talk about Simon, really, unfortunately. He always seems to be getting involved in little incidents here and there, but today, so far, okay, I know we're an hour and 36 remaining, but he's the top AM, 25th place. He's doing a sterling job up there. He's only lost 1 position so far in this race as well.
Oh, who's that? Avdoka off. Oh, I had a little flutter for a minute thinking that was our championship contender, Ross McFarlane, but what's happened to Avdoka here? Coming down into Christensen corner, just carries a bit too much speed in.
Yeah, and the back end didn't want to cooperate, did it? And no. He ends up... well, let's have a look then from another angle. And hopefully we'll get to see, does he actually touch a wall? Yeah, he just carries a little bit too much speed. Back end doesn't want to cooperate, and he does hit the wall.
Oh, not on the wheel too. That could be big damage actually for Avdoka. We'll see if he needs to go into pit lane. But if it's any comfort to Michael, Frank Pereira, a Lamborghini factory superstar, made that exact same mistake in the Sebring 12 Hour 2 years ago. So happens to the best of them, Michael.
Certainly does. This track, it catches everybody out, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in a GT3 car or even in one of the hybrid class cars, as we saw at the weekend as well. You know, this track, it punishes you for any slight mistake. It's a proper old school track, is this one, and I love how you hear the Formula One drivers complaining about the bumps at Circuit the Americas. That's got nothing on this place.
They would get a very rude awakening. That is for certain. Well, they did have the first ever USA F1 race here back in 1959, but it wasn't very much. It was quickly, it didn't come back after that because, it wasn't very financially sustainable for the organisers and the owners of the circuit. Nothing much changes, does it, Paul?
One thing I will say about that 1959 Grand Prix here at Sebring. That's when Jack Brabham won his first World Championship, and he had to push his car over the finish line. And as he said in a documentary once, it's uphill as well.
It's always uphill when you're pushing. That is for sure. But of course, there's just so many stories. It's great that we've got an endurance race for this one, Paul, so we can share some Sebring stories. But it used to be home to a B-17 Flying Fortress fleets here as well, which of course the same type of aircraft held at Snetterton as well. So there you go, Snetterton and Sebring, they're like twin circuits, like twin villages here in the UK.
Yeah, and I know which track I would prefer to race at, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too. It's not in Norfolk.
Yes, it's not at all. In fact, I'm going to be racing here on Thursday evening for, of course, the World Touring Car Series, which is having 3 sprint races around here on Thursday evening from the same organisers of this championship, so don't miss that on RaceSpotTV. Peter Mackay will be on commentary for that, and these drivers, some of these drivers are racing here tonight that will be racing as well on Thursday night. So slightly different cars though, front wheel drive touring cars. Here's Adam Hedgecock though, he's currently in his Lamborghini. Into about 29th place. He's got Ben Gregory, the Three Spires Motorsport driver, in front of him. You've really got to be careful with the curbs around this section, haven't you? Because you could get a wheel over the edge of those curbs and end up losing control of the car.
And I think if I just spotted correctly there, I think Adam Hedgecock has got a pair of 3M sim racing gloves on, Paul. He just went to scratch his nose there, and I'm pretty sure those were 3M sim racing gloves. See, a man with style and elegance, Adam Hedgecock.
And of course, pick up your 3M sim racing gloves from the 3M website. And I'm sure Jonathan Walker, who is currently racing in the 8th place, it must be said. 8th place for Jonathan. He's not your top Pro-Am driver. That is newcomer Selin Centre for year one. Victory sponsor, Jonathan Walker. He's got a little bit of a queue of cars behind him. He's got a couple of Evo SR cars of Chris van der Ness. And Michael Durka's just making some moves as well. There he is. There's Jonathan. Nice and calm behind the wheel. Choosing to go gloveless. And seems very comfortable right now. Quite a reclined position for him as there goes Durka on one of those Evo SR cars. That's Mark Hutchinson that he's got past.
And no wonder he's reclined and relaxed when his company produces such a wonderful product. He's not got much to keep him awake at night, surely.
As we, you're trying to get some free stuff, aren't you?
I've been trying very hard, and I'm still, Johnny. I'm trying my best here, pal. Come on, sponsor value.
Well, what we can see now is Evdoka. He's on that recovery drive, of course, after making that mistake through turn number 3, and he's trying to work his way forward. So obviously the car hasn't got too much damage to it that it's causing him any issues, so he's moving back through the field. But of course he is down currently 4 places from where he started in this race. Let's talk about this race a little bit more, because of course there are 2 mandated pit stops here today in this race. The drivers, the fuel tanks are limited to 75%, as there goes Evdoka down the inside of van der Ness. Although van der Ness we've seen is one of the better defenders of position, although that time Evdoka gets the job done. But yeah, 2 mandated pit stops, 75% fuel tank is the limit. So you're normally talking about 40-45 minutes, as Ross McFarlane's actually lost the position to Jack Sedgwick. They'll move down into the hairpin, so Sedgwick moving forward here.
Yeah, good stuff there from Jack Sedgwick. He's looking pretty hot pace at the moment, and I wonder if McFarlane will now play it smart and just try and tag on to the back of the Ferrari driver there and just try and save a bit of fuel, reduce the pit stop time possibly. But interestingly, the pace is this is possibly track temperature related. We've got a very high track temperature causing a bit of a nightmare for the tyres. Interesting, the pace has already dropped off to about the tune of about a second from the opening lap. Luke McEwen's fastest lap on lap 2, we're lapping at about a second down on that already. That tells me, Paul, that it's going to be a huge ask to get these tyres to go all the way to the end. I wonder if we'll see the drivers make a change at the pit stop.
Well, if you're going to make a change of tyres, you do it at the first pit stop, don't you? You don't wait for the second pit stop, because that's more of a splash and dash, and you're not really getting the most advantage out of them. Really, you want to get that pit stop done straight away with the tyre change then, if you're going to change those tyres.
Yes, because to change the tyres, unlike in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, where the tyres are changed at the same time as the fuel going in, so there's no real penalty as long as you get the tyres done by the time the fuel is in, which is usually easily possible. But here in the iRacing platform it's different. The fuel is put in, then the tyres go on, and it's about a 30-second wait to put those tyres on. Yes, therefore, you've got quite a few laps. That's about an hour going a second a lap quicker. Thereabouts. So it's a lot to ask. But the thing is, if the tyres fall apart completely, it could be really treacherous by the end of the race.
Here's a move, Lee Berridge. He's had some really good races in this championship. He was an AM championship leader for a while. Had a couple of mixed fortune races, though, unfortunately for Lee as well in this championship. So it's really been a bit hit and miss. And of course, his performances at the start of the championship were actually to his detriment, because he did get moved to the Pro-Am championship because he was doing so well in AM, and he's just down there in, where is that now, 33rd in this race. He's up 7 places, so he's been moving forward in this race, is Lee, but unfortunately his unsuccess meant that he got moved up into the Pro-Ams.
Yeah, it's. I suppose in one way it's flattering, isn't it? That you're getting moved up the ladder and you're progressing up the grid. But yes, it does take away the opportunity, to kind of fight for fight for silverware. I've had a chat with one particular prominent driver who's been upgraded from silver to gold FIA status recently, and it's certainly not brought him any new opportunities. In fact, it's taken quite a few opportunities away for that reason. So it is a bit of a catch-22, but I'm sure that Lee's should be happy with his results, that he's warranted a promotion, and we'll see how it progresses over the rest of the season. McEwen open up the gap now to 1.6 seconds and just chipping away a couple of tenths per lap. Josh Thompson's the only driver really who's on the case of the Logitech Altus Esports Lamborghini driver. It's quite a while back towards Jack Sedgwick, who's about 4 seconds off the leader. Ross McFarlane, Paul, he appears to be struggling to hold on to Sedgwick there in 4th place.
Do you know what? I can actually give you some average lap times, because I've got a 5-lap average on my time screen here. Only the top 3 are still below 2 minutes for their average lap times. 59.5 is the average for Luke McEwen over the last 5 laps. 59.6 for Josh Thompson. Jack Sedgwick 59.8. Everyone back is either 2 minutes or greater for their average lap times here. And right now, 23rd place, one of our newcomers to the championship, and Peter Jensen right now, not doing a bad job. Great introduction to the series, up 8 places in this race.
Yeah, Jensen Adriansen's a really good driver. I've seen him compete in a number of other GT championships in the past, running for the Indy Autosport group. And the one thing about Indy Autosport is that those guys put in, when they commit to a series, they do it properly. They put in a huge amount of collective mileage with one another and really work hard to just get those last little hundreds and tenths where they can, and that's what makes them, they really do punch above their weight in that sense, because they put in the hard yards. And that's the thing I really, really like and appreciate about virtual motorsport is that if you put in the lap time, if you put in the hours, it'll help you. As Jack Elton spins the Slovakia Audi Sport machine. Don't do that. Oh dear, that was close.
Yeah, he kept it on the grass, thankfully. On the just, yeah. I think Connery Maddock was getting himself prepared to have a little bit of a rant about a rejoin there, but I could sense him, just his senses off track.
I think he jolts up in bed at night thinking, "Oh, someone's reversed back onto the track."
Yeah,
I know it. I could smell it.
And Connery's partner going, "Don't worry, it's fine. I'm not commentating on it. Go back to sleep." Yeah, we've had a couple of newcomers coming to the series for this round going forward. So it's always good to see new people joining the series. As I say, Salim Senturk for year 1 is the top driver. He's replaced Bradley Hulls, who has withdrawn from the rest of the season. He's got other commitments he's focusing on, so that means that Salim takes his position in year 1. We'll be delighted with that news, because Salim is certainly doing a good job. In a bit of no man's land though, about 3 seconds behind Marvin Lesmorman and about 3 seconds ahead of Michael Avdoka.
I think he'll be delighted though. I mean, to be leading the class on debut, Selim Senturk with an I rating of 3,800, which is lower than quite a few cars behind him. So yeah, great stuff there from Selim Senturk, and it's well known, it's well publicised that this Audi R8 LMS, as fast as it is it's a sharp, it's a pretty bitey car when it wants to be. Quite a short wheelbase, a big heavy engine in the middle of the car, and when it breaks away, it can be quite difficult to catch any little slide. And here at Sebring, they can happen just in an instant when you hit a bump or whatever. But Selim looks to have it really on rails at the moment. You can see, well, he's right on top of it though. He is on top of it. Yeah, you can see that's happening every lap. And Selim, brilliant car control. He was well ahead of that. Great stuff.
Yeah,
caught that on camera. That was good.
It just caught a bump, didn't it? And that's what unsettled the car a little bit. But the young Turk is doing a sterling job. And speaking of Turkish drivers, Cem Boltbasi, F2 debut at the weekend. Not doing too bad. Wins the another esports series and gets a chance at Formula 2 and makes his debut. It's not bad, is it, really?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and of course, you know, we've seen it. You know, we've seen it before. With lots of drivers progressing from virtual to real world motorsport. Of course, Hanken Guven for Kwanda Simsport. He's you know, competing at the very top. You know, that's the thing is that in Turkey there's not the same level of, you know, domestic motorsport that we're lucky to have in the UK or in France or Germany or wherever. And that's where the virtual motorsport comes in to give opportunities to people that might not necessarily have that pathway and have. I mean, for example, if you live in England, you're only a 2-hour drive away from pretty much all the circuits in the country. So it's that is where virtual motorsport really does open up a new dimension. I mean, last night I was commentating on the Skip Barber Racing School competition, where the winner of that virtual event gets a fully funded seat in the Skip Barber Formula Championship, which is a huge opportunity.
It's a tremendous opportunity, is that? And I don't know how fun the Skip Barbers are to race as well, from racing them on iRacing. I was going to say that of course the name that really was the first name from sim racing, of course, Jan Mardenborough, isn't it? You know, he was involved in sim racing, came through the Nissan opportunity, of course, that they did, and really sort of made a name for himself in GT racing, didn't he? With the Nissan GT3.
He did, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was from a time attack competition on Gran Turismo, and Jan's talent really showed through and got to drive the LMP1 car at Le Mans eventually. So yeah, it's the thing is that is where we are so fortunate. You can't find young football players or rugby players on the on a simulator. There's no such thing. You're moving your thumbs. I think even our thumbs could move as well as some of as any top athletes' thumbs. But the thing is that with virtual motorsport, the drivers are using pedals. And really accurate pedals. They're using a wheel, gear change pedals. It is the same movements that is in a real car. And you don't get much greater endorsement than the current F1 world champion, who's a very avid sim racer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that really is missing from sim racing is the G-forces. That's about the only thing that you can't replicate. You have got sort of motion rigs and things like that, but it's still not the same as being in the full metal car. As Alex Nella, currently 17th place right now, behind one of the A1 cars. That'll be Reece Saunders in front of him in that BMW. So Nella, one of your pros, down 17th. He's been steady away at the moment, I feel, in this race, and he's just trying to go along and pick up whatever places that he can. Just to give you a brief update, so your top three is Luke McKeown, Josh Thompson and Jack Sedgwick. Bit of a gap between the three of those. Ross McFarlane has actually caught back up to Jack Sedgwick with that, but I have a funny feeling that he's just sitting behind, getting a bit of fuel saving done there. Your top Pro-Am is Selim Senturk with Jonathan Walker. Selim Senturk is in 7th. Jonathan Walker just losing a position there on screen to Adam Watson, down to 10th place for Jonathan in Pro-Am. Matt Hutchinson behind him for Evo SR in 11th place. That's the top three Pro-Ams. Your top Am driver is still Simon Nella, 26th place at the moment. The next best Am is Kevin Kittleman in 30th place, and then Jesse Wilkins 32nd. Jesse, another driver that we've seen in this championship, seems to get involved in incidents, unfortunately, but the Parabellum Racing Team Corsair car certainly doing a good job here. Is that Lamborghini 3rd place in Am?
Yeah, doing a super job right now, and on the class podium as things stand. Very, very smooth indeed. Just coming back to Adam Watson there, making the move on Johnny Walker to go into 9th place. Once again, the top Porsche driver, which is, you might think, why is that significant? Well, it's not been a good season really for the Porsche shed drivers, and Adam's really got the very best out of that car and had some good results. He's had some controversial moments as well, we could probably say.
That's one way of putting it.
But that's probably, but that, you know, could that be a symptom of having to really push to the absolute maximum to get the best out of the car, maybe?
Has Adam thrown you a fiver your way or something?
Oh, do you know, I'm Scottish, it'll need to be at least into double figures.
Well, as we see Jesse Wilkins still on screen right now. So as I say, 32nd on the track, just behind Lee Berridge and Kevin Kittleman in that queue of cars. Behind him, Adam Hedgecock, Lars van Rijn, James Whitehouse, Eric Haag. Jeroen Kaiser is up 11 places, Craig Jones. Philip Koenig now up 14 places as there's movement further back. Chris van der Ness and his teammate, they're swapping positions. So that's Crouch up ahead of Chris van der Ness. Now, so van der Ness has actually fallen back a little bit here in this last quarter of an hour of the race.
Yeah, Chris van der Ness, interestingly, running in close formation there with his Evo SR teammate, James Crouch, as we often do. We often do see them running quite close together. So we've got our first taker in the pit lane, the number 55 Century Sim Racing Lamborghini in for service. That's Andy Archer.
No
He's back on the
tyres.
go again. No tyres. Good spot, Paul.
Jack Osborne is on pit road as well, and he's another one with no tyres taken as well. So a few of these drivers deciding that yes, it is hot conditions, but the track is cooling down a little bit. We're down to 46 degrees, so already we've dropped 2 degrees Celsius as this race has gone on. If it continues like this, then it'll make things a little bit easier for the drivers out there.
I mean, it couldn't really get a great deal higher. I mean, it was quite incredible. The high track temperature just makes this surface so greasy. Of course, it's mostly concrete here. Not all of it, but it's mostly concrete here at Sebring, and that makes it incredibly slippy in certain places, especially when it gets hot. So yeah, that's fascinating. So the drivers obviously know that. I mean, as we said, you know, you get about 30 laps in an hour, and you know, if it takes about 30 seconds to change the tyres, so you need to go a second quicker every lap for an hour. That's quite a big ask for any driver. So the drivers have maybe know that, okay, that it's going to be hard, but they've got to make sure they keep that tyre in. So, you know, this, what does that say about leaders at the front? Well, Luke McEwen looks very comfortable right now. He's built up a gap of 3 seconds, but has he taken too much out of the tyre? Well, time will tell. Have Cedric and McFarlane played it right? They're still within touch, but, you know, about 4 seconds down the road. But are they playing the smart game? We won't know for another hour and 10 minutes or so.
James Whitehouse currently battling on screen, and he's lost one position as James, and he's about to lose another one there to Philip Koenig, and there's an opportunistic move, and through they go, and that's Craig Jones moving up a position. Craig, again, another driver that's not had the best of luck in this series, but today having a good race. I think it's something about Sebring that's really, I think it's because it's one of those tracks that a lot of people know in GT cars, especially GT3 cars. They'll have raced this track a lot, and I think it's a track that people are more comfortable with if you're one of those drivers who's normally towards the rear of the grid. You get that opportunity of being more familiar with the track, as Tom Brown trying to make some places up after his lap 1 incident. But yeah, something's happened to Christian Rose.
Whoa.
And that is the back end not cooperating with him.
Yeah, it just kind of went around on him there as well, and the pendulum effect of the rear engine 911 caused that spin to be full circle. As Mark Hutchison, nice move there, goes up into 10th place. Johnny Walker back into 11th in the Free M Lamborghini, or is he? Of course, can he make the counter move now into turn 1? Very big commitment here as well. Is he going to pop out? No, he's just going to just sit in there as well. You've got to use your head in these type of races. It's not like the the sprint races like we've had in the past, or even the 40-minute features. This is a proper marathon, and you've got to think ahead to ride on board with Johnny Walker. Looking very calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
I thought he was going for a digging for green gold there, but no, just adjusting his glasses.
Certainly, but you look at it and you see so many. Oh, closing right up on the brakes there. God, blimey, talk about the last of the late breakers, Johnny. But you look at him, just no emotion, getting upset with losing the position, not getting wound up. He just looks very calm, very relaxed. That's how you want to drive one of these cars. If you're getting a little bit emotional or a little bit tense or whatever, you end up making mistakes, don't you? You've got to be nice and relaxed and just get into the flow of the circuit.
Yeah, and sometimes you just, if you know that a car, this is where a good spotter comes in. If they're looking very closely at the lap times of the cars around you, the car behind you has got a superior lap time over a extended number of laps. Sometimes it's better just to say, okay, they've gone by me. This, my race isn't with them. I've just got to keep clicking out those laps. I mean, Jonathan Walker and
slow down penalty for Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, you can hear him planning out the throttle there. Oh, so what's happened there is Jonathan Walker has just stepped over the track limits, probably on the inside of the right-hander Le Mans curve coming onto the Ulmann Straight there, and the iRacing service has said, no you don't, and it tells you to effectively slow down for a prescribed amount of time, and that was why he wasn't full throttle on the straight and the cars went breezing by, and that's a costly error for Johnny Walker there.
Yeah, that's what, down 3 positions, down to 13th now. I want to point out Luke McEwen last lap a 1:58.8 compared to Josh Thompson with a 59.2. So nearly 0.4 of a second quicker is Luke on that last lap. We've got a yellow flag out on track, and I think it's David Nichols. I saw him dropping down my timing sheet. There's Satellite Racing car up to speed once again, and yeah, that was I just saw it as a yellow flag. I'm so blessed that I've got a track map which is tracking all the drivers. I've got a timing screen giving me all sorts of information. I'm so glad that I have this. There we go, just a self spin. Oh, and Jonathan Roberts didn't know where to go.
Well, he avoided the contact, that's for sure, that's for certain. Well, you've got all of that, Paul. All I've got is a bit of paper in front of me that says, in 1974, even with no race, 5,000 fans still turned up anyway. Just for the party here at the Sebring 12 Hour.
Wow, I did not know that.
There you go. See, that's what makes us such a good combination, Paul. You bring the kind of genuine information that's relevant, and I bring these absolutely pointless nonsense facts.
That's not pointless. That's a really, really good fact, is that, though? I never knew that they had 5,000 people.
How good is that? They just came for the party.
Yeah, why not? what we can tell you is Luke McEwen has now got a 4.3 second lead over Josh Thompson, and it's going great guns for Luke. Now he will be coming up to lap traffic in the next sort of 5 or 6 laps. So he's then got to be looking 5 or 6 laps. That'll be right around the pit stop time for him, because we're expecting pit stops in the next 6 to 7 minutes, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's perfect timing for Luke McEwen. I think just come into the pit lane as you reach the lap traffic, as we ride on board with Marvin Lesmelin in the 666 Audi. I am so jealous of this blue Sparko seat. It is so cool. Every week I'm like, oh, where do I get one of those? Not so sure about the Need for Speed under lighting, but the blue Sparko seat, yes.
But here's the thing: it's 2 teammates that are running together, Adam Volkovich and Marvin Lesmelman. So they're quite happy just to run in formation and to help each other out, not put each other under pressure, and focus on their own race. So this is a really, really good performance from them. I've found out something very interesting, which surprised me. I was told by a friend of mine, in fact, no, it was my team boss, David Crozier. Dave, if you're watching, hello. He was telling me that rally car seats, they have a date on their seats. Race car seats, nope, no date on them.
Now that is interesting. That is very interesting. I thought that race car seats did have a date on them, but
As did I.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Certainly, if you have a shunt in a rally car, you need a good seat.
Yes.
For sure.
If you have a shunt in a race car at somewhere like Silverstone, you need a good seat.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. It's interesting just listening to Marvin Lesmolin's throttle inputs there. He's definitely soft throttling, trying to save as much fuel as he can. That's when you're running with a teammate can help. Michael Ardoka to pit lane. Of course, having a spin early on doesn't appear to have taken a great deal of damage. If he has, he can get it repaired now with a quick repair. Now, what I want to see is if he takes tyres or not. I think from the first couple of pit stops, I think it's just going to be fuel and go. But we'll see. Getting a good close-up of this gorgeous Lamborghini Huracan Evo GT3. With a big rear diffuser on it there to suck the car into the ground through the fast corners.
Painted by Jack Blackhall, one of the Pure Sims drivers is that car, Knight Rider Designs. Provided all the pretty much all the paints for the V8 Supercar E-Series, did Jake, so it does sterling work, getting some paints for him. But there we go, Michael Ardoka back out of pit road, down in 37th for 29.7 stop. Fuel only once again, so I think we are going to be seeing drivers just taking fuel only in this race.
Seems so, yeah. So that it's going to be a real battle to the end of who's got the tyre left at the end, because after an hour and 45 minutes in this heat, this type of track temperature, well, that's a big challenge. And this is just this is what I love about the World GT Championship. You know, we have 20-minute sprint races on certain rounds. We have 40-minute feature races with a single pit stop. Then the endurance. It really does produce, it really does reveal the very best GT driver, because you've got to have every part of the discipline. You've got to be the most complete driver to win this championship.
Josh Thompson deciding now is the time to pit, and he's going to be getting a service then, so he just couldn't keep up with Luke McEwen in that first stint. Luke has been absolutely on it again, last lap of 58.9. Jack Sedgwick, to be fair, 59.0, Ross McFarlane 59.1. So a few drivers at the front getting some really, really quick times. But Josh Thompson deciding now was the time, and he's taking tyres.
Rolling the dice is Josh Thompson. This is fascinating stuff then from the Manxman. I have to say this is a surprise given what we've seen so far, but maybe Thanks just wants to try and roll the dice, try something different. Now, will he go for a full 4 tyre set, or will he just go for 2? Sometimes a trick. It looks like he's going for 4, and no, it's not. No, it's 2. Right.
Which 2 do you take?
Rears?
Rears, I would take.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it would have to be rears, given the power's going through the rear wheels.
Yeah. Well, out he comes, and he's come out behind Michael Ardoka, Brendan Stacey, but that's 50.1 seconds. So Rhys Saunders, he's the one who's taking tyres. I'm noticing on the timing screen as well. RaceSpotTV/timing if you do want to keep up to date with everything going on in this race.
Now, if you're Luke McEwen here, do you just cover that off? Do you just copy that and knowing that you've got a pace advantage? Or do you stick to your guns? Let's see.
Well, we're seeing straight away he was very tight through Sunset Bend, wasn't he? And he's coming down. I think Jack Sedgwick and Ross McFarlane are coming onto pit road as well. They are. So there's Josh Thompson. I just don't see Josh jumping him. This is the thing. We've been seeing drivers taking full fuel about 30 seconds. Josh Thompson was 50 seconds. So you've got to be confident enough that in an hour and 4 minutes, as it was for Josh, you can gain that 20 seconds back, plus be faster for when you do gain on that driver that you're racing against.
It's certainly a big ask, that is for sure. It could be, of course, the BMW is a straight 6-cylinder engine, but turbocharged quite heavily so, whereas the Lamborghini is a 5.2 litre V10 naturally aspirated. And that didn't look like what? Cedric's taking the short stop. Okay. Yeah. So, Lamborghini, Luke McEwen there, the orange and blue car, our leader by a reasonable margin coming into the pit lane. He's taking his long stop, whereas Cedric is taking the short stop, maybe just to try and hassle McEwen into a mistake, but that will come back to roost on the second stops, won't it, Paul?
It certainly will, but it also means if Cedric can keep with McEwen, he's getting himself some fuel saving here, isn't he? And that could help him in the long run here and help shorten his second pit stop.
Very good point indeed. So this is crucial then for Jack Cedric. If he can hang on to the coattails of young Luke McEwen here, it could really vault this Ferrari of Jack Cedric into the contention for this race. And the thing is, if you've got a driver on your case all the time, you're much more likely to just make the odd error and just push that little bit too much. So Luke McEwen's got to be really clever here. He's got to stick to his plan, because you have to think, Paul, with the pace that he's got, if he sticks to his game plan, he will win this race.
The majority of drivers have been on pit road. Just 3 drivers have not. Marvin Lesmallman, who we saw fuel saving, I think he's coming down to pit road right now. Alex Nella and also Eric Haag, the 3 drivers who haven't pitted. Well, Lesmallman deciding now is the time. The time is now. And here he goes to get his pit stop done. You've got Alex Nella coming round, sliding around here as well. He's heading onto pit road. So yeah, the final few pit stops. I was before this evening's race just doing a little bit more sort of look up, and went onto the Logitech GLTC Sports website just to look up at what information they have on Luke there. You're right to say young. 16 years old is Luke. He's incredibly talented and makes me feel very old all of a sudden.
Oh, there's just a huge band of drivers like him, young drivers. Whoa, is Lesmallman now into the game? Wow. Okay,
well, that was a very short pit stop from Lesmallman.
Yes. But again, it's got him in that Jack Cedric will be absolutely spitting teeth at the moment, because it's like, that has ruined my plan, Marvin. How dare you?
But Jack will want to get past as quickly as possible. He'll want to just charge past, and I think Marvin will happily let him get past here at the moment and try and do what Jack's trying to do and hang on to Luke McEwen, and they get themselves some fuel saving. But Lesmallman should be the quicker car now, in theory, because he's got a lighter car, less fuel. But you can hear him, he's just backing out. He's saving fuel again. He's trying. Oh, big moment there!
A tap there. I think he got a tap from behind. There's a Porsche behind him. I could be wrong, but it did
look like it, didn't it?
Yeah, and is that Brian Crone? It's one of the Indy Autosport. Right. So car 95, I think. Yeah, who's a lap down, Brian Crone. Maybe just got into the back of Lesmallman there. Possibly not, but he was close.
It was either contact or it was grass, and that's saying grass.
Grass. Oh.
That's a big mistake to make.
Marvin. Well held.
It was well held, and luckily we were on board with Marvin right when it happened as well. That was really good to be on board and to see that live. So yeah, definitely great insight, and you could see he was upset, and obviously very upset with himself in all of that.
Yeah, it's an unforced error at really the most. Oh, it's the worst possible time to make that error. He'd played himself into the game with a great strategy. As you can see, the pit stop times there on our timing tower just shows you that McEwen really is. He's made the investment in the long stop early on, so he's got that up his sleeve for later. But Cedric and Lesmallman really played themselves into it well. And Lesmallman now he'll just have to see what he can extract from here. But Cedric is not letting McEwen get away. was about 0.2 of a second slower than McEwen last time by, but he's still within 0.75 of a second, which is enough to pick up at least a little bit of a draft.
It is. So let's have a look then at how things are. So you can see the pit stop times there. So David Baker, another one of those drivers with a short pit stop there, just 17.4 seconds for him. Josh Thompson, you see, 50 seconds, the best part of for him on the stop there. Josh is right behind Michael Evdoka, it must be said. And Josh's lap times, I mean, they're not spectacular at the moment, must be saying. A 59.4 last time, which was half a second faster than Michael Evdoka. But there's some more battling further down. Matt Hutchinson and Tim Perry. Those two looking to make some switch of positions, and Perry doing a good job in this race. His pit stop was 27 seconds compared to Hutchinson's 31.8 seconds. So again, this is all about strategy, is this race. It's all about looking at what people have done, what the strategy is for those people out there, and how it all pans out. We won't know how the race is going to go until about the last 20 minutes or so, will we, Peter? Because that's when we should see the final pit stops.
Yeah, and that's when we might see what the tyres are going to do as well. Just coming back to the point on Josh Thompson, you know, he's one of the few leading drivers in the BMW M4, and as we mentioned, a straight six engine, very typically BMW, but heavily turbocharged, and that turbocharged power delivery sometimes can overwork the tyre more than a naturally aspirated engine can, which delivers its power in a little bit more of a linear fashion, which of course is, you know, the Lamborghini 5.2 litre V10. Of course, Cedric, his Ferrari is turbocharged, so will Cedric struggle with the tyres later on? We'll shall see. And is that another problem for Lesmelin? Oh no.
It is.
Oh,
he's
Marvin
dropped down. You can see his time dropped down, and Ross McFarlane now right behind him. Some more issues for Les Mullman, and this is down at the hairpin, and he's just carried too much speed into the corner.
Yeah, and that's what can happen if you just push too hard in that Audi R8 particularly. It's got a short wheelbase, so it really can be quite snappy on the limit, and going down there into turn 7, the hairpin, you're going from pretty much from 6th gear down to 1st gear, and you can, if you just rush that gear change a little bit, you can lock the rears really easily, and that's exactly what happened there to Marvin Lesmelin. And that's quite good news though for Ross McFarlane at the back of shot there in the number 1 Pure Sims Lamborghini, because he's got his long stop out the way, and now he has a great marker there with Lesmelin to save a little bit more fuel, so we could see McFarlane with a really short stop at the end and a leapfrog up the field.
We've had 50 minutes, or just over 50 minutes of this race. Only one retirement from this race. David Nichols has retired from the race. Here's Josh Thompson looking to the inside of Sunset Bend. There was a bit of a wiggle there from that BMW, wasn't it? And Lamborghini is going to fight back. Michael Evdoka won't give this one a fight, I can tell you, from bitter experience of racing against him. He's a hard charger, is Michael, but Josh manages to get himself in front using the fresher rubber to his advantage. Through he goes then, up into 7th place. He needs to now drive away from Michael Evdoka and really put in some lap times if he wants to make this pit stop cycle work, really.
Well, you kind of saw where it really is going to work well for Josh Thompson is the drive out of the corners. You know, when you're putting that power down, it's about 500 horsepower in a GT3 car, so you're putting it through those 2 rear tyres, having that fresher rubber on the drive out the slow corners. Like this one here, turn 7 again, you're coming at sort of 1st gear, getting the car slowed down, and then back on the power. You can see the big kind of rear slide there, interestingly. Careful not to do that too much, but I suppose Josh Thompson can maybe afford to be more aggressive than his rivals who are trying to make the original older rubber go all the way to the finish. Who will have it best? Well, we'll see.
The problem is that if you push the tyres too hard early on, you end up working them too hard, you overheat them, and then you end up in a almost worse situation than the drivers who are maybe taking it that little bit more careful and looking after their tyres from the start of the race.
Yeah, very good point, Paul. Yeah, that's the thing is, if you here in the iRacing platform, the way the tyre behaves, if you overheat it early, it's pretty much impossible to get it cooled back down again. Oh, as you can see, yeah, Josh is really pushing. He knows to make the strategy work, he has to push very, very hard, and you can see the car getting a little bit loose on him. So I do think we've got a camera in Josh's cockpit, so we can maybe see how what his manner is like behind the wheel. He certainly looks like he's really pushing in hard on there, going into Sunset Bend and starting to just put a bit of distance between himself and Michael Abdoka. Oh my goodness, that's a huge one. Wow, getting it up on the grass. Well, that was going to be quite a good lap time, I think, but still a 1:59.7. Yeah, that has cost him a bit of time, but my God, that nearly cost him the race.
Yeah, that certainly did. And I think Avdoka has just decided, do you know what, I'm going to give him a little bit of space here. If he's going to have an accident, I don't want him taking me with him. But yeah, that was a real heart-in-mouth moment. And I think a change of underpants will be needed after that one. My goodness, that was a really, really big moment for him. You're so fast, you're carrying so much speed out that corner, and you're not wanting to let off the throttle at all there, because you carry that speed down the start and finish straight. Yeah, my goodness, that was... well, it had both of us... oh, you can see the car, there's a bump loose there, and then it gets up on the grass. I mean, this is a brilliant shot in slow motion. Thank you very much to our director Hugo Luis for this shot. And he's missed that barrier that juts out there, hasn't he?
I think he might have left a skater tag on the wall there. Just a little lick of paint, no damage, but just a little mark saying Josh was here. Because... wow, that's got to be one of the moments of the season there as well. If that doesn't make it to next season's promo video, then something's gone wrong.
There you go. There's a challenge for the promo video makers. Get that one in. At the front, Jack Sedgwick has lost Luke McEwen's slipstream and is now 2 seconds behind. So that tactic of just taking that little bit of a shorter pit stop not quite working out so far for him. Luke just been so good, hasn't he, this season in these endurance events. Been so impressive to watch Luke. As I say, only 16 years of age, and he's got an amazing future ahead of him.
I think he's when you're looking at one of the real top talents of sim racing, it looks very, very mundane there from that angle, but we can assure you it is absolutely not. That's grass there on the exit of the corner, so it's very easy to lose it. But yeah, coming back to Luke McEwen, we've seen him have a few kind of rash moments throughout the season, but by far he's had the best pace, and we've said it many times, if just polish off those rough edges, which it clearly has done in this season, this race, he's done a perfect job so far today. But if you can polish off just those tiny wee rough edges, you are looking at one of, a potential world class contender in the very near future in Luke McEwen. I think particularly in this car, he just seems to be at one with this Lamborghini Huracan.
Well, I mean, you look at it in this race alone, okay, it's not the same car, but he's been able to pull away from two, not one, but two Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup drivers here. Those are two drivers, Jack Sedgwick and Josh Thompson, who are in a world championship. They're competing at the highest level in terms of road racing, especially tin-top road racing. And yeah, Luke McEwen has been able to just be that little bit quicker than them and be able to pull away. And I think you're right there, Peter. He's going to be one to keep an eye on. If he does, just works on those little bit of maybe not quite going for some of the moves that he has done this season, but he's still 16. He's still learning. He's still developing. He's got a lot still yet to learn in terms of racecraft and things like that. I mean, you're always learning racecraft, even at the age of 37, like I am.
Quite right. Yes, absolutely. There's always tricks to learn, and I think the raw pace is the bit that is something that it just comes from the driver themselves, and they've got to bring that to the table on their own. And yeah, the kind of the racecraft and the competition craft is something that can be kind of taught and honed in the right group. So yeah, fantastic. And I think, Paul, doesn't it say a whole lot about the World GT Championship as well, that if you come here and win races and even win the championship in this series, you will be talked about in that light, because the quality and the depth of field is so good that if you kind of run away with a lead in a race of a field of this quality, then it proves how good you are.
Well, I mean, you look at the history of the World GT Championship. You've got people in the past like Marina Sirica, champion. He in season 8, he has ended up in the Porsche Taycan Esports Super Cup. Had people like Phil Dennis last season. My goodness, him and Kai Kashube. Unbelievable drivers competing. They weren't able to quite win the championship, the two of them, but they really did push Ross McFarlane, especially Dennis, push Ross McFarlane all the way to the end of the season. You see these drivers come in as that's a nice move around the outside there, around the outside of Cunningham, up into 20th place. But you see those drivers coming into the series and testing themselves. For some of them, it's a bit of fun, but when they get when that visor or the virtual visor gets pulled down, it is deadly serious out there.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%, and in all classes. That's absolutely right. It's Jensen Adriansson's now up into the top 20 in a field as strong as this. 53 cars today to be up in the top 20. Very important indeed for the Belgian driver in the Pro-Am class. Tell you what, the Pro-Am class, you look at them being led at the moment by James Crouch in 9th. You got virtually all the way through from the back end of the top 10 to the top of the top 20. It's pretty much all Pro-Am drivers. It's really, really tight in that class.
That Pro-Am championship is one of the most competitive classes in this series, and yeah, brutal is the right word to use. Now, Paul Webster that we're looking at, last time out at the Hungaroring, I said it when we were going through the championship standings, he had the best point scoring of any driver last time out at the Hungaroring. Pro-Am driver beating people like Luke McEwen, Jack Sedgwick, Josh Thompson. When a week goes your way, you can get yourself some serious points in this championship. That really helped Paul in his Pro-Am championship.
Well, they say the 8s are lucky, and he's got 3 of them on his car there. So, yeah, no, but there's you make your own luck. That is for certain. Yeah, that was a great stat from last time out at Hungaroring, and that just shows you if you keep the nose clean, and particularly in the sprint rounds, you can make up some great ground. Now, for anyone wanting to come to pit lane, they could do from any time now and make it to the end of the race. So if there's any drivers that maybe feel like they're being held up or whatever, they can make that jump now. So we may well see some drivers coming to pit road. Looking along my timing screen, there's a few drivers further down the order that are now on to this sort of 16th lap of their stint. So, there is opportunity to come in and splash with fuel and go to the end. But usually you'll see the drivers try and run the tank as empty as possible and try and get those quick laps on those low fuel numbers.
I mean, the two that we're expecting, there we go, Adriansson getting up another position then, so up to 19th now for him. The two that we're expecting to come down the earliest is, of course, Marvin Lesmulman and David Baker. They were the two who took the really short pit stop that time, so they'll be coming into the pits around about the 40-minute mark, I would say, for those two. And then we'll start seeing people just coming down to pit road, dribs and drabs, and then you'll get that big rush, like people have heard the price of petrol is going up, and so everybody's in a mad dash to try and get the tanks full before it does go up. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about that because I don't drive, but plenty of other people have had that issue in the last few weeks. But yeah, you'll see that really big rush around that 20 minutes to 15-minute mark remaining in the race, where you'll have those pit parties.
Yeah, well, I think that they should kick off very soon. I have to say, Indy Autosport here, the team that Jensen Adriansen strives for, they really know how to do a livery, and this is, I don't know if it's deliberate, but it's certainly a wonderful homage to the Flying Lizard Audis of about 6 or 7 years ago. That sort of metallic silver and red. It looks superb. Of course, they used to run Porsches and then switched to Audi Sport, but yeah, once again, great stuff from the Indy Autosport painters, because that car looks fantastic. But you know, at the moment, but at the front, Luke McEwen leading the way, pole sitter leading the way with the fastest lap. So he's on the way to a gentleman's set. However, Jack Sedgwick is still within reasonable touching distance, but we must add that Sedgwick is due to take a much longer stop at the next stop than McEwen. Yeah,
so I mean, I'm looking at this. I think with the way that he's gone, Sedgwick should be able to jump Ross McFarlane, I feel, or at least stay ahead of Ross McFarlane in the pit stop phase. When that all gets settled and done. Marvin Lesmorman, it's the question of where's he going to come out with that longer pit stop? He may be behind Josh Thompson, I don't know. Speaking of Josh Thompson, by the way, he's now 25 seconds behind your race leader. So that risk, that gamble of taking tyres hasn't really paid off for Josh here, has it?
Doesn't appear so. I mean, he was 0.6 of a second slower than Luke McEwen last time by, about half a second slower than Sedgwick, 0.3 slower than Lesmorland. So yeah, it doesn't appear to have worked, but I do wonder in 40 minutes time whether we might see why Josh has he been forced to take that option? Has it been that the tyre wear, either the way the car is set up or the way that the car delivers its power, you know, is it eating tyres? Has he been forced into that kind of necessity to at least change the rear tyres, and that has that then spoiled his race? We won't know, but it's, as you rightly say, it's the numbers aren't looking good right now for him.
There's Marvin Lesmorland as we cut away, looking further down the order. Here's Adam State then, Satellite Racing, down in 35th behind Eric Haag. Now, State did take tyres. It looks like he took all 4 tyres with his pit stop, 57.7 seconds. Yeah, it's around about a 4 tyre pit stop, is that 57.7 seconds?
Yeah.
For that. So he's 35th at the moment behind Eric Haag. And he's only lapping about 0.3 of a second faster. Track temperature has come down again another degree, 43 degrees now track temperature. So as we're getting later into this race, that track temperature is coming down. So I think that's certainly helping those drivers out that have been going all the way through on one set of tyres. But yeah, it's good to see some of those drivers further down. This is, I always say this is one of the good points of these endurance races. It gives us a chance to look around the field as well and talk about some of the drivers. Pete Harrod, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed in 20th, won't he?
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, in the pro class, there's a lot of pro-am class drivers in front of him. So yes, I think he could well be. And just looking at his, I think there's a couple of drivers in front of him that have taken a slightly shorter stop. So he could leapfrog a little bit when they come in to take their second and final stops, quite possibly. But yes, Pete Harrod, you would expect him to get quite closer. I do remember one particular event last year in the major series, the sort of F3 festival, or what's it called, the Masters of F3. That's it, at Zolder, and he won the event quite convincingly. So yeah, you're right. I think he would be preferring to be a little bit further up the road. But interesting, what has surprised me, Paul, is the lack of attrition, which normally at Sebring is much higher, especially in high track temperature, where you've got to try and make the tyres last. Speaking of, Marvin Lesmorland comes in for his final pit stop.
I think he might be on a little bit on fumes as well with how he was driving along. David Baker on for his pit stop. So we were expecting this around this mark. Lockie Brown as well coming down to pit road. Christian Rose, that was just ahead of Pete Harrod, I would imagine is going to be coming in the next lap or two here. So some pit stops going on, and there will be long pit stops as they brim the tank. Well, not quite brim the tanks, but get a good amount of high octane fuel. There goes Marvin out of pit road, and away he goes. 30.7 seconds. So yeah, that's right on schedule. Is that?
Yep, perfect stuff there for Marvin Lesman. Hopefully he'll have a smoother third and final stint here. Slightly ropey start to the second one, which cost him quite a bit of ground, but maybe now, if he's comfortable with the fuel number, he can now get to push again. That's always what you want to hear from your crew chief. You can push. It also might be your crew chief being a bit passive aggressive, saying hurry up. That's what it's like. It's when they say you are okay on fuel. You are okay on fuel, which basically means get a move on.
Oh, is that the translation of that? Is it?
Yes. You can use these tyres up. Good job, mate. Good job. Good job.
I mean, I will say that there is something to be said about having a calm voice in your ear as a spotter or engineer or however you want to call it. My spotter Jim that I have in the touring car, he's a nice, he's just a calm voice. He's just one tone of voice. He doesn't get excited, and yeah, it can help you when you're driving. Josh Thompson's onto pit road.
Okay, right. Okay, let's see what the Manxman's got up his sleeve for us. In that number 49 BMW. This is on schedule, well, schedule-ish. Certainly he won't have to pit again. But
it's a little bit early though, considering that you took that long pit stop, didn't you, with including the tyres?
Yeah, interesting. Josh is certainly going on a very alternative strategy. He hasn't been anywhere near on circuit with his rivals, but where will he end up when we get to the flag? Where will he pop out? Because he's kind of running in another kind of avenue here. It's quite strange.
Unless his team has found himself a hole, although if they have done, that one doesn't look like one. No, it's right coming out into traffic. Is that the Josh? That really has not panned out. By the way, that Century Sim Racing car. Oh, there's a Team Mad car. That's your own Kaiser. I can tell that straight away by the colour of the wheels.
Parliament wheels.
Yeah, he's around there. The Spearmint wheels. It's a Spearmint Porsche, not a Rhinoceros, as he comes back up onto the road and gets going again. But those tyres will be screaming at him now for the heat that he's just put through them.
Spearmint. I do apologise. No, you got me with that one.
Well, anyway, you're on. I'm right, though, aren't I, in saying that his tyres now, he's put a lot of heat through those tyres. That's going to take a few laps before it starts feeling like they're not marshmallows.
I'm just seeing on his door there. Has he got a Smiler Bill sticker? Yes, he does. That's, did you go and stick that on before the start of the race, Paul? The Smiler Bill sticker there.
I don't like to push my affiliation with Team Mad when I'm doing commentaries like this. But yes, I'm a Team Mad driver, so I do expect them to have my logo on the side of the car, and they thoroughly produced the goods for that.
What is the meaning behind the Smiler Bull, your Twitch handle, Paul? I've always wondered this.
So this goes back many years. It's almost 84 years. No, it's it goes back to back to my rugby days. I was always known as Smiler at the rugby, and because I was a Bradford Bulls fan, it was, well, how do you stand out as, because every team's got a Smiler, haven't they? So online, I've just always had the handle of Smiler Ball, and it's just stuck ever since.
Ah, I like it. That's cool. Now I know.
Mike Horder, he's not caring about that though. He's looking down the inside of turn number 1. That's a bit ambitious to make a move there, Peter, but he's certainly trying to get by here. And Mike, I mean, where is he on track right now? Coming into the turn number 6, back down the number 42 driver, and he's pushing all the way behind that Indy Autosport car. No move being made on Kevin Kittleman, 24th and 25th.
Oh, I thought Horder was thinking about it a little bit there and has to check up slightly coming out of turn 7. 32 minutes to go. Still waiting on the second pit stops for our leaders Luke McEwen, Jack Sedgwick, Ross McFarlane, Adam Gulkovic, Michael Evdoka, Selim Senturk, who's been a real revelation in his first race in the World GT Championship. He sits in 6th right now, top of the Pro-Am class. And I tell you what, a class win on debut, that would be quite a story.
Don't forget the admins can change.
Oh, I didn't want to say it. No, I'm not going there.
They can change his rating and move him to pro. Yeah, so they won't just look at one result though. They'll look at a few results before they decide if anybody needs to be moved. And the thing is, because he's joining the championship halfway through, I don't think he'll be one challenging for the AM title here. As there goes the Centra Sim Racing car, just getting out the way of this battle. Mike Horder moved ahead of Kevin Kittleman then in this one, but down into Sunset Bend, the two Lamborghinis dueling it out. See how much the bumps are affecting these cars, but they've got the cars set up for this one. You have to run a little bit of a different ride height around here, a little bit of softer suspension and dampers as well, just to be able to cope with those vicious bumps around here.
Yeah, the ride height is the big one. This is the highest ride height they'll run really on any round on the IMSA WeatherTech calendar, just for sheer suspension travel. It's almost like having the difference between a rally car and tarmac spec and gravel spec with the suspension travel on it. But yeah, this is where the setup is really, really important. And, you know, you look at outfits like Pure Sims would be a very good example. Of course, their lead driver, Ross McFarlane, running in 3rd right now is Jack Sedgwick to pit lane in the Ferrari. Okay, so our first taker of the front runners, arguably second with Josh Thompson, but he's on such an alternative strategy. We're only going to see his hand at the end of the race. Sedgwick brings the NX Ferrari in for a splash of fuel.
I would expect Luke McEwen, Ross McFarlane to come onto pit road in about 10 minutes or so yet. So they've still got a little while before they make their pit stop, whereas Jack, his previous pit stop was 24 seconds. See how long this one is. It should be somewhere similar, 23.5 seconds that time. And out he goes onto the track once again. So that will put him a little bit further down, 7th place, 8th place in fact, because Mark Hutchinson coming round, and that's one of the disadvantages of if you come out in traffic, because that pit exit feeds right onto the racing line around here. It's one of the real challenges of this track, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. I mean, we saw that at the weekend in the Sebring 12 hours where, yeah, it's the drivers coming out of pit lane and some of them getting properly swiped onto the grass of cars fully committed coming through turn 1, and it is serious commitment, but Jack Sedgwick knows he's got to get a move on here. He cannot afford to get held up in any kind of traffic whatsoever, and he'll be hoping that the drivers in front of him pit fairly soon, because he's got a lot of pace underneath that number 10 Ferrari. He's been running the car since, well, he won with it on debut, of course, at Belle Isle last season, yeah, he's kind of been in love with it ever since.
Yeah, of course, that was the first time he could run the Evo 488, wasn't it, at Belle Isle last season? And it just seems to suit him a little bit more, doesn't it, to Jack? I mean, to be fair, somebody of his talent should be able to make a box car go fast, and certainly that Ferrari, not the favoured car on the grid, it must be said, although there are a number of them. The Evo SR team, noting that because of Mark Hutchinson behind, also they favour the Ferrari as well.
Yeah, the Evo SR team, both in GT3 and GTE form as well. I believe if you own one in the real world, there is a kind of conversion kit that you can switch it between GT3 and GTE specification as you wish, which is quite an interesting one. There's only, I think, Aston Martin you can do it as well. GT and GT3 specification. But yeah, coming back to the setup point of view, I mean, you look one team that have really ran a car loyally are the Pure Sims outfit. They've run the Lamborghini Huracan pretty much since it came onto the iRacing service a couple of years ago, and have really developed that setup. And that is, you know, they've run a lot of races here at Sebring as well. So you've got to think that must make preparation so straightforward for drivers like Ross McFarlane, where they've got a setup book where they can just plug it in and go.
Yeah, it's that's it. Yeah, when you run a car so much, you learn its foibles, you learn how it works, how it doesn't work, and
Thompsonoff,
yeah,
in the wall.
That's down at turn number 3.
Christensen.
Now and that's some damage as well. I think he's going to have to get. If he's not used his free repair, which I don't think he has. Oh, that car's crabbing. Has he had an issue beforehand? Has he had an issue out of turn 1 into turn 2?
Well, we're about to find out. Let's see what happened then. Josh Thompson.
Oh
dear.
And that's David Baker that he's made contact with, and that's hard into the Armco barrier. Trying to go too wide through there. It was David Baker that he was racing against, and he's sticking a nose in there where it really, I don't think it deserves it.
I don't think there was room going for a gap. That there's kind of on a hiding to nothing there, really.
Try to go around the outside on the exit of turn 1, especially. I've
not seen it achieved before. Well, that maybe gives us it's just a working theory, but that maybe gives us a little indication, Paul, of just how hard Josh Thompson was having to push to try and make that tyre change strategy work, and maybe not quite worked out for him, but it just shows you that to get that strategy to work, he had to be absolutely flat out every lap.
Yeah. And I mean, we saw that early on in the stint, didn't we? The way that he was so wild pushing through the corners, pushing. Absolutely, he's had to take a turn back to the pits. I'm not surprised with how much that car was crabbing after that incident, but yeah, I think he was just asking a little bit much there. I mean, David, he was well within his rights of taking his line.
He held his line. Yeah, he held his line. Yeah, there was no movement, there was no blocking or anything like that. You know, he was predictable. No, I don't think David Baker. I'm sure David Baker he might well feel a little bit bad about it, but there's no reason to be, I don't think. Adam Watson's on the. Well, it's a good job he's not got the big hoodie on today. He's just gone for the t-shirt. He'll need it because look, he's just had a bit of a shake, going, "Whoa, that was a big one." Oh.
So that's the second time that we've caught somebody having a big moment whilst we're on camera. There, I tell you what, Hugo seems to really pick the moments, doesn't he, with his selection? Good work from our director Hugo Luis. And
he sees everything.
Yes, he does see everything. That's for sure. Why do you think I've switched off the studio lights? We can't see me in my studio here. Michael Evdoka, he's gone on to pit road now. So more moments, Radon.
I think that says, you know, what are we, an hour and 20 minutes into this race. That is what the drivers are having to put up with in terms of tyres. You know, every bump, the tyres, the grip is just not there. And Adam Watson now, you can see him looking in the mirror all the time. He's in trouble on tyres, big time.
I don't know why he's looking in the mirror, because he's got a good 6 seconds behind him. So he doesn't need to worry too much. Michael Evdoka getting his final pit stop and away. 20.2 seconds for him. Pete Harrod now on to pit road as well. The man known as Shy Pete or Handsome Pete, depending on who you speak to. He's on pit road right now, getting his pit stops done. Cars clattering over the curbs. That's Adam Volkovich, who we've not really talked about that much in this race, but it's been quietly, steadily getting the job done, hasn't it, for that German sim racing WDE team?
Yeah, quiet races in endurance racing is usually a good thing. If you're just quietly going about your business, hitting your apex, no mistakes, then you'll usually get some sort of result out of it by the end. It's when you have myriads of mistakes that just make it so difficult to get a result. But that's big news then for Josh Thompson, crashing out of the race at turn 1. And oh, what's happened to Marvin Lesmelin? He's run very wide onto the gravel on the exit of the corner. Now, does he lose it? No, just hangs on to it. Wow, he's
not having fun out
using
there,
up his lives, isn't he? Yeah.
Ross McFarlane onto pit road.
Right.
Now, this is important as to where he comes out in comparison to Jack Sedgwick. I think Sedgwick should jump him here, but it might be a little bit closer because, of course, this is the short pit stop for Ross.
Yeah, and Ross McFarlane, again, just such a clever driver. He runs to such a, strict program, doesn't panic when, if his rivals drive away from him in the early stages. But how many times have we seen him just sneak back into contention in the latter stages of the race? Very fast pit stop there, just 17.7 seconds. Out onto track he goes. Where is Sedgwick going to come out, though? That is the question. Where's the Ferrari? There it is. Oh, yeah, so it's got a lot closer then. So McFarlane on strategy maybe gained a couple of seconds over the course over Sedgwick, maybe.
Yeah, that's worked out nicely for Ross. That means it's come out right behind Jack, and now he can push on to the end of the race. Can I tell you 2 more retirements from this race? Adam State has officially retired from the race, and of course the man who we saw having that accident, Josh Thompson, has officially now declared himself out the race, having left the race server. So it's not been that bad a rate of attrition, has it? Just 4 drivers officially out the race here.
Yeah, it's very impressive indeed, and 26 on the lead lap at the moment. So yeah, about half the field on the lead lap on a race this long. Very impressive indeed. It's definitely been a change of definitely been a change of feeling compared to 2 weeks ago at the Hungaro ring. So Luke McEwen, what a flawless race this has been. An hour and 25 minutes of just perfection. So he'll be hoping for no dramas here. Fill up with fuel. This is where you want to make sure you're on the speed limiter very early and not taking any risks.
His fastest lap, by the way, a 1:58.4. It's just the level of speed. I mean, the next nearest fastest lap, I believe, is Ross McFarlane with a 58.9. Nobody else has
done that.
touched that.
He's done that well into the race as well on old tyres. That's incredible.
I mean, the track
Just
temperature has
speed.
come down. It's 41 degrees now as the track temperature. Luke's out the pits, by the way, and we're not even anywhere near for Jack Sedgwick or Ross McFarlane. They are a mile away from Luke in this one. He is just, you've called it, absolutely flawless. 15 seconds, in fact, is the gap.
That is quite exceptional. We've had 42 laps, and to build up that kind of advantage over drivers like we mentioned, Jack Sedgwick, World Championship level, Ross McFarlane, in this car I would put him in a World Champ, although there isn't a World Championship for this type of car. I would put him, he would be right there on that grid for me. So fast, so clever, and yeah, Luke McEwen's making the whole field really scratch their heads at the moment on just incredible pace, and not even a flutter of a mistake either. Really impressive. So 19 minutes to go. It's now that stage now. It'll be a long 19 minutes, I'm sure, but he'll just you kind of feel he's almost got that robotic mode where he can just do these lap times all day long.
I will say that I can't remember another performance like this for a long time, at least in the World GT Championship. This has been absolutely sensational. But look at that, Ross McFarlane now onto the rear diffuser of Jack Sedgwick. It's Ferrari versus Lamborghini. Two great Italian marks there. One with a prancing horse, one with a bull. and Jack Sedgwick feeling the need to try and break the draft, and Ross McFarlane just not bothering with it.
Nothing faces him, does it? Ross McFarlane, he does not going to get involved in those kind of things, and he's probably just thinking, right, I've got him rattled now. I'm going to put the pressure on hard, and that's like Ross McFarlane. We sometimes forget that he can fight as well. He's just normally so smooth and consistent that he does have this mode in him if he needs it. He only brings it out when necessary, and 17 minutes to go in this race, that's exactly when it's necessary. So yeah, the big Bologna Bull against the prancing horse of Maranello. Been a pretty good weekend for that Mark. So he's certainly got the momentum behind him, you could say, Cedric, after what happened yesterday.
Yeah, certainly very, very good weekend for them. Philip Koenig, the latest one onto pit road right now. So we're only owed 2 pit stops. One from Alex Nella and one from Eric Haag, who did go. They both went long on their first stints, don't forget. So just 2 drivers owing us their second mandated pit stop. If you're wondering, well, why are the GT3 cars taking 2 pit stops in an hour and 45 minutes? Well, the league admins, they set a fuel limit of 75% of the fuel tank. That's the capacity for them. And so that means that they can't quite last the full hour like they normally would, and that's one way of mandating that the drivers out there have to take 2 pit stops.
I think it's a great initiative. I think it opens up so many interesting strategical opportunities and being able to just pit at just the right point. But Ross McFarlane looking very, very racy indeed here, all over the back of Jack Sedgwick, who has stayed in line here because he's getting a bit of a draft from Lee Berridge in the boosted BMW, who is a lap down, or will be. McFarlane just waiting for his opportunity, waiting for Jack Sedgwick to leave a gap. The thing about Ross is he will not force a gap, he will not go for a desperate lunge, he'll just wait for his opportunity, and that's just not what you want to see. That number 1 Lamborghini filling your mirrors. Looks to the inside, nope. Thinks better of it. Maybe this bit of traffic here might be McFarlane's ideal opportunity to pounce, Paul.
Yeah, this is it. This is the point of the track where you don't want to be catching traffic, isn't it? It's quite narrow through here. It's quite twisty as well, pretty much a single line. So you don't want to get held up behind somebody who maybe isn't at the same pace as yourself, as Alex Nella has pitted now for his final pit stop of the race. So that'll be everybody having their 2 pit stops. McFarlane gets his way past Lee Berridge, who does a very good job of not interrupting too much in this battle. So great awareness from Lee to know where and when to try and position himself around this track.
Oh, perfect stuff there from Lee as well, because I actually was wondering there if Cedric might have sneaked past and McFarlane had to wait till the next corner, but Berridge just blending out the throttle there a little bit to allow them both through. That's very fair, very good. And the battle continues then. Will it be 6? Will it be 7 laps to go? Hard to tell at this stage. McFarlane will be hoping it's 1 more at this stage to try and maximise the opportunities to try and make a move on Sedgwick. I would think if McFarlane can get a good run here out of the Le Mans curve onto the Almond Straight and get a big run, he can maybe have a look into Sunset, and it looks like he's getting pretty close, carrying a lot of speed out of the Le Mans curve, and now he's going to try and hold on to the draft of Sedgwick. Here we go.
Well, I mean, for me, they're both off the track right now because they're over the white line, but it doesn't matter. Down towards Sunset Bend, a little bit of a squeeze from Sedgwick, but left enough space into Sunset Bend, and McFarlane looking to get the run out the corner. He's got that. He's got the overlap there. They're going to come across the line side by side, but Sedgwick, crucially, has the inside line for turn number 1. Again, a little bit of a squeeze, and that's what you get from a competitor like Jack Sedgwick, somebody who there was smoke on the exit of turn number 1, but it doesn't faze these two. But yeah, that's what you get from somebody at such a high level. They will squeeze you. They know the rules. These drivers, they know the rules at that high level. They study them hard, make sure that they know exactly what they can and can't get away with. And well, Sedgwick having to go on the defensive here again. McFarlane, it's a bold move to try and get around the outside of the hairpin, because you can get squeezed off there on the exit. Not quite getting the run, but this is fantastic stuff here. The battle for second place.
It's great racing. It looks like McFarlane's just got a little bit more grip left. He's able to just hold that mid-corner speed. Here he goes up the inside at Cunningham. They make contact. Oh, a bit of contact. McFarlane just blends out of it, thinking, oh no, I've got to make it clean. Otherwise, there might be penalties coming in as well. So McFarlane lives to fight another day, as does Sedgwick. But Sedgwick looks like he's really struggling for grip here. That Ferrari, maybe with that turbocharged power, maybe just used up his tyres. He has had to push. So maybe McFarlane, well, old wise Ross McFarlane has just kept that little bit more life in the tyre to fight in these last laps.
This is absolutely sensational. This is brilliant stuff. This is what you get with the World GT Championship. We're into the final 12 minutes of this race. This has been going on for an hour and 45 minutes, and Sedgwick trying to break the draft for Ross McFarlane. McFarlane, though, was trying to follow in the wheel tracks of your own Kaiser, who was up the road. That's the next car that they've got to try and get by and lap, whilst they're busy fighting, and they're fighting that hard that Lee Berridge is just hanging on to them here, and they're actually dragging Lee towards your own.
Lee Berridge is getting a grandstand view of this battle as well. He's probably laughing his head off watching this. But yeah, it does just seem that Ross McFarlane's able to carry the speed a bit more in the mid-corner. He's just got that little bit more grip. But, you know, battling like this, it can soon drop off just as quickly. So Sedgwick's just going to try and place that Ferrari exactly where he can, and leaves the door open a little bit there, but that gives him a good exit now onto the straight through Gurney Bend down we've got a bit of traffic coming up as well with your own Kaiser. And will that give McFarlane his opportunity? We saw him have a go around the outside last time by. And Jack Sedgwick having a little bit of internet connection issue there. We saw him have that in the World Touring Car Series last week. And Ross McFarlane will not be wanting to see that, because it's very distracting.
It is distracting, I can assure you of that, when you're involved in such a high intense battle, to have the driver that you're battling with have a little bit of an internet connection and just disappear from your screen for a second or so. Engaging the cloaking device, I like to call it. And certainly Jack Sedgwick now pushing on second place. I tell you, Alex Della and James Croucher are battling between the two of them, so they carry on with their battle. But this battle for second place is so keen. Keenly fought between the two of them. McFarlane's got to be careful, though, not to push too hard and overheat his tyres behind, because, of course, whilst, yes, he's getting that slipstream, he's also losing a bit of downforce, isn't he, mid-corner through these medium and high-speed corners.
Yeah, that's where it must be quite frustrating now for McFarlane to try, and he's having to try a lot of different lines to try and get the best run possible. But Sedgwick is so experienced, you can tell he's just placing that NX Ferrari exactly where it needs to be. And when you've got two drivers on the peak of their game like this is proper top class motorsport. Great to watch. This guy has a spin and nearly takes Berridge with him. Oh dear.
Now, did he lose it himself or was he pushed? I don't know. Well, I wouldn't like to say, because we didn't get a look at that at all. It was for position, yes. I was going to mention that he got that battle for second, and then it was a battle for 35th that was behind them as well. So it's not just at the front where the battles are happening. That's not the first time that Jeroen has spun at turn one, it must be said, as well. Here's another look. I think that's all on his own, is it? He's already losing it.
He's already going, yeah. Berridge couldn't go anywhere, really. Just finished the job. Here comes McFarlane. And Jack, you have to be very fair to Jack Sedgwick here. He's not throwing any late blocks. He's placing the car exactly where it needs to be. He's giving a car's width everywhere. This is wonderful motor racing, Paul. This is really firm but super fair as well. Great to watch.
Well, this is two wily characters here, isn't it? You know, they're canny individuals. They know what they're doing out there on track. And, Jack, very experienced at a world championship level, of course, not just Porsche Tagore Esports Super Cup experience, but also experience from the old GT World Championship as well, and other World Championships, even the Grand Prix series, if I do remember correctly. So he is somebody who's got a lot of vast experience. Ross McFarlane, switching late on down the Ullman Straight. Cedric, big slide. This is his opportunity. This is what Ross McFarlane needed. He wanted the mistake to come from Cedric. That's the move for second place. With under 8 minutes remaining there, he had to be patient, didn't he, Peter? But it's worked out for Ross.
Oh, and that's just what Ross McFarlane has got in spades, his patience under pressure. And he just made Jack Cedric's life as difficult as possible, did not go for any silly half-hearted moves, just made himself really, really irritating in the mirror. And that was, and poor old Jack Cedric, he's really fighting a lack of grip in that Ferrari. You can tell the tyres have not stayed in the same condition as McFarlane's, and McFarlane knew that and just trusted that maybe a little glimmer would open, and there it was. Brilliant motor racing from both drivers. Both can be so highly commended for the entertainment they've given us there. Brilliant.
Oh yeah, that absolutely. I mean, that was a good 10-15 minutes worth of door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel action. Speaking of wheel-to-wheel action, here's Matt Hutchinson trying to go around the outside of turn 1 of Alex Nella. It's nearly worked. They're going to stay side by side as the track narrows down into turn 3. Nella hanging on for 11th place. And again, another Lamborghini versus Ferrari battle. They've got John Roberts behind them, but he's not involved in this battle. He's separated out Matt Hutchinson from Tim Perry, who's in 13th. So, yeah, Nella getting himself into 11th place. Has gained 5 positions in this race as Alex. I want to point out, quick mention before we get to the end of this race, Philip Koenig up 34 positions he has gained in this race here today. And that is just absolutely a tremendous race. Started from the back of the grid up to 19th for Philip.
That's amazing stuff there from Philip Koenig, fully deserved. And that's what a big manoeuvres to get that amount of places in the books. But interesting there, just as soon as Ross McFarlane got that move done for second place, he just drove away from Cedric. Really shows you actually how hard Cedric was having to defend to keep McFarlane at bay for so long. The gap already is about 1.2 seconds between them, but we're coming up to 1.4 actually. So yeah, but Jack Cedric did a super job to keep McFarlane at bay, but just got to get the car to the finish now, and he'll be rewarded with a podium. But championship leader Luke McEwen, 20 seconds and more to the good.
So impressive. Speaking of impressive, Selim Senturk, the top Pro-Am in this race, 9th place overall, is right there on screen in that year 1 car, that distinctive livery of theirs, right behind Adam Watson, the best place. Is he the best place? Yeah, he is the best placed Porsche in this field, in 8th place. So Selim 9th in he's the top Pro-Am. 10th place is James Crouch, he's 2nd placed Pro-Am driver, and then Mark Hutchinson, who we saw battling with Alex Nella, 12th place overall for 3rd place in Pro-Am. Your top Am driver, just want to give mention to all these as well whilst we're going on. Martin de Jong, again, another driver who's not really had the best of times in this season so far. Today, really working out for him, up to 26th position after starting 25th. So only lost 1 place in this race, and he is your top Am. 2nd place Am is Kevin Kittleman, 2 places behind him, and then 2 places further back is Jesse Wilkins. So yeah, Parabellum Racing having a very, very good day in the office in the Ams.
Yeah, Kittleman 0.2 of a second quicker last time by, so he's agonisingly close. We've only got a couple of laps to go, and he's got about 2.2 seconds or so there. So Kittleman will be trying everything to try and get that Am class win, but if not, still 2nd in class. Still a good day at the office for the Autosport Lamborghini driver. There is a race leader in the back of shot in the Logitech Altus Lamborghini, Luke McEwen, who leads by 19.5 seconds now. So we'll keep an eye on when McEwen passes the line. But yeah, we have to say, I mean, Selim Senturk to be leading that Pro-Am class, 9th overall in his first time out here in the World GT Championship, and an endurance race at Sebring. What a tough test as well.
Yes, it certainly is, with a big grid as well. We started with 53 cars. We've got 49 cars remaining in this race, which goes to show that with this championship, if you do have an issue out there, you do get one free repair, one quick repair in this race. So if you do have an issue out there, you can keep yourself in this race, and that's what that rule is to encourage. It's to encourage people to finish the race, because at the end of the day, for a lot of these people out there, this is their hobby. This is their sort of big race event of the week in the World GT Championship, and so it's only fair that they give those people the opportunity of finishing the race as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly a great stage to race on. It's Luke McEwen, interestingly, comes over the line 2 minutes 12-ish to go. We're going to go well into overtime. We're going to go about minute and 45, minute and 50 into overtime. So I hope all those drivers who are going to be on the last part of that lap, I hope they've got enough fuel on board, Paul, because we're going well into overtime here.
Yeah, there may be one or two drivers out there who are thinking, oh, Luke, do us a favour and just back off by a good 15 seconds on this last lap, because there'll be some that do not want this lap, the extra lap here. But Luke's pace has just been absolutely incredible, and bar the pit stops, he has not been below a 159 in this race. It has just been a relentless pace from him.
It's quite extraordinary. But incredibly, on that the last lap by there, as I refresh my timing screen, yeah, last time by, bear in mind we're on lap 51 of the race. Lap 50, Ross McFarlane said his best lap of the race. 158.744, just only 3/10 off McEwen's best. After an hour and 43 minutes of racing on hour and 43 minute old tyres, that is exceptional. So there is your answer about tyre wear. It's not a problem.
Well, it's not so much the tyre wear, it's the fact that the track temperature has dropped almost 10 degrees during this race. Simon Neller is on pit road, as is Michael Blake. So they've either had an incident out there, or they've fueled short, and I think they've both had an incident, because they're on pit road for a very long time. So something's happened to them. Meanwhile, your race leader will be coming round Sunset Bend, and he'll be getting going. And there was a spinner there, wasn't there? That was Martin de Jong. That was our AM leader. Martin de Jong, our AM leader, has spun in the last corner before the start of the final lap.
And look who's in the background there. Luke McEwen, the race leader, and hold on.
That's getting a little bit silly there between the two of them.
Yeah, I think that game tape might need quite a bit of reviewing there, I'll be honest, given the car that was at the front of the pack there.
This is Michael Blake and Simon Neller. Blake's gone in hot, and there goes the back end, and bang. Nowhere for Simon Neller to go.
No, not at all.
Well, we are on the final lap of this round number 7 of the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. The championship brought to you by 3M and Coach Dave Academy. And what can we say that hasn't already been said? An absolutely imperious drive at the front from the 16-year-old Luke McEwen from Logitech GLTC Sports team. He has just been so good in these endurance races particularly, and he's just got a few more corners to go before he gets himself another race win here. Ross McFarlane second place, he's 18 and a bit seconds back, put up a good fight, but just could not match the pace of Luke, and neither could Jack Sedgwick as well. Your Pro-Am, Selim Senturk and James Crouch doing very good job, 9th and 10th place. drivers. Kevin Kittleman in 27th place overall. But here's your race leader around Sunset Bend for the final time. And you'll see Barney, the flagman, waving the checkered flag. He is your race winner here in round number 7 of the World GT Championship.
Absolute masterclass from Luke McEwen. Flawless from lights to flag. Really well deserved. And Ross McFarlane will come home in second place, and although the gap between first and second in time is quite a big one, the points offered are still the same. So Ross McFarlane has really limited the damage to the smallest possible amount by finishing second in this event, seeing off Jack Sedgwick, who finished third. Very important indeed, as Evdoka and Baker still tussling over 6th position. Of course, David Baker, he almost has the property rights for that place.
Oh, and he's getting the cut back there. This is going to be a drag race to the line. I think Evdoka just have it at the line. Yes, he does. Getting some good time for the Pure Sims outfit there as they go across the line. Here we go, battle for 12. This is Mark Hutchinson and Tim Perry, 2 Pro-Ams. This is for 3rd place in Pro-Am. And oh, that's a bit of a lunge. Oh, that was never going to happen for Perry. Around he goes, and that allows Paul Webster to move up into 4th place in Pro-Am. Big dive. I don't think that move was quite on there into that final Sunset Bend. Last few drivers coming across the line, and Philip Kern. We've got a car running out of fuel. We have. Now, who is that? Oh, and it's the Evo SR car. Oh, Chris Van Der Ness has run out of fuel. Thankfully, he got across the line and didn't have to push it like Jack Brabham did.
Yeah, he was trying to do his best Jack Brabham impression there as well. Well, we did wonder with it going a lot longer than expected if that would have caused a problem, but poor old Chris Van Der Ness. But no such problems for Luke McEwen. Absolutely out the textbook.
Brilliant stuff from your championship your pro championship leader of Luke McEwen, and Logitech GL2C Sports. They will be delighted with that performance from him. So that is your race winner, and we should now be able to give you your unofficial race results. Of course, any penalties are post-event, and here are your results then. Luke McEwen winning this one by 18.6 seconds over Ross McFarlane from Pure Sims Esports. Jack Sedgwick with the Was Cooking by 3M car, just not able to hold off Ross, and you can see how much he dropped off towards the end of the race there, finishing just under 6 seconds behind Ross. Adam Volkovich and Marvin Lesmorman. Lesmorman had an eventful race out there, and not the type of eventful that he would have wanted, but he finishes 5th place behind his teammate from German Sim Racing.de outfit. Michael Evdoka just pips his Pure Sims compatriot of David Baker for 6th place. David Baker will be absolutely gutted not to get 6th place, seeing as that is his favourite finishing position, it seems. Adam Watson, 8th place for Team Mad, ahead of a debutant, Selim Senturk. Brilliant drive from the young Turk from Team Year 1. Finishes top of Pro-Am, 9th place overall, ahead of James Crouch, 2nd place in Pro-Am for Evo SR. Alex Neller then, 11th for Boosted Virage, ahead of your 3rd placed Pro-Am Mark Hutchinson on the Evo SR car. Paul Webster, your Pro-Am Championship leader coming into this round, is in 13th ahead of Pete Harrod. Jonathan Walker, 15th after a good start to this race. Ashley Finch, 16th ahead of Tim Perry, who, well, he made that move on Mark Hutchinson at Sunset Bend. It didn't quite work out for him. Jensen Andriensen's in 18th place. Brilliant drive from him. Really impressed with his performance out there to gain so many positions for him. Philip Koenig, biggest mover of your race, 34 positions gained up into 19th place, with Rhys Saunders rounding out your top 20. Chris Van Der Ness then running out of fuel at the end of that race, 21st for him ahead of Mike Horner. Christian Malcharek in 23rd ahead of Lockie Brown. Andy Archer in 25th, and then it's Tom Brown. Kevin Kittleman, who was actually moved down to AM from Pro-Am, he is your top AM driver then in 27th ahead of Eric Haag. Jesse Payne Wilkins from Parabellum Racing is the second placed AM driver, should I say, in 29th. And Christian Rose, 30th place. Simon Field, 31st then for him in the end, with Martin de Jong 32nd after leading so far into that second stint, or the final stint, should I say, of the race. Ben Gregory, Craig Jones ahead of Lee Berridge. Jeroen Kaiser with a couple of spins at turn 1 finishes 36th ahead of James Whitehouse. Brendan Stacey, Jack Osborne and Lars van Rijn to 40th. 41st then for Adam Hedgecock ahead of Brian Crone, with John Roberts and Jack Belton. Nick Salaputis and Andy Gilmore all finishing 1 lap down. Matt Woodhouse 2 laps down along with Simon Neller. Michael Blake 3 laps down in the end. Adam State did not finish, along with, as a big name, Josh Thompson, Toby Ward, David Nichols and Nathan Healy did not take the race start. Well, Peter, I keep on saying that these endurance races for the World GT Championship just keep on delivering. Daytona at the start of the season really delivered. I think this one is right up there with it.
Yeah, particularly that battle between Ross McFarlane and Jack Sedgwick. Sedgwick was really struggling clearly on the tyre in the Ferrari and really struggling for grip, and McFarlane just hassled him until he got his opportunity and then pounced at that opportunity, and it was really good to see that. But sometimes it's just impressive just to step back and watch a masterclass taking place, and that's what Luke McEwen put on tonight. Just remarkably impressive, remarkably calm under pressure as well, to just keep delivering those fast lap times. And so, some great stories as well. Selim Senturk, 9th overall on his debut in the World GT Championship, top of the Pro-Am class. Drama in the AM class finish, we might not have heard the last of that. Yeah, lots of storylines up and down the grid.
Adam Watson has just kindly told us that 19% of the tyre tread left on his left rear in that Porsche. To finish that car in 8th place, that is a tremendous effort, and it just goes to show how much of a tyre beater this track is, and those drivers really were brave to go all race with no tyre stop.
Yeah, and then when we saw some rapid lap times, Ross McFarlane 2 mid 1 minute 58s to finish the race. Okay, it's on low fuel, but that's Adam's just told us there, 19% on the tyre, and maybe it was a bit better for the Lamborghini, but not much. That's still putting in some hot lap times, whatever way you look at it. So yeah, our drivers, isn't it amazing, Paul, what difference 2 weeks and a bit of a rest can do? We came away from the race at Hungaroring. Yes, it was a sprint event, 3 sprint races, but we came away thinking, that's not World GT Championship, that's not what we expect from the drivers. Today, it has been pure World GT, a proper classic, and shows the quality of drivers in this field. They all deserve a big pat on the back. Well done. Yeah, absolutely. A great way to respond to what happened 2 weeks ago. Looking forward a week then, Monday night, the 28th of March, special night for me, because we are going to one of my favourite endurance races. Talk about 2 back-to-back races, Sebring and then Circuit de la Sarthe in northern France. 2 40-minute races with a mandated pit stop around there. That is going to be a real slipstreamer, isn't it? There's no doubt about it that you've got to run that car, every car out there, with pretty much no rear wing. Yeah, and that's where it's going to be tactical. It's going to be very, very difficult for Luke McEwen to make a breakaway. In fact, he's going to have a snarling pack of drivers all wanting his crown, all wanting that championship lead. And Jack Sedgwick will be in there, Josh Thompson will be in there, Ross McFarlane will be in there. That you can guarantee. The nature of Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans, it's like you say, it's like a Talladega Daytona sort of style, and we saw what happened to Daytona in round 1. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens there. And when the tactics come into it, who comes out on top, it's going to be quite different.
Well, you won't want to miss that one. Same time, same place next week. RaceSpotTV for the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M and Coach Dave Academy. It's been a tremendous drive from Luke McEwen at the front of the field and a brilliant performance from him to wrap up the race win here at Sebring. We'll see you in 1 week's time at Circuit de la Sarthe. From Paul Smith, from Hugo Luis as well, and my commentary partner Pete Mackay, we wish you a good night.